So yesterday I told you that I was going to bring the part from Nagarjuna's Precious Garland about arrogance, and I had forgotten, but I remembered today. So if you're not sufficiently sick of hearing about arrogance, I'll try and briefly go through these before all of us just say, humbug, go away. Okay, so this all happens in the 5th chapter of Precious Garland. This is a commentary that my teacher, Kensur Jamba Tekchok, did on Nagarjuna's Precious Garland. So, to tell you something about the different kinds of arrogance. So, first of all, there's one called haughtiness. Okay, this is a separate. In chapter 5, Nagarjuna goes over 57 faults that we need to subdue or eliminate in order to really practice the Bodhisattva path well. So number 11 of these 57 is haughtiness, which is an inflated sense of self that makes us unable to honor or respect those worthy of respect. Based on some small good quality we may have, we get puffed up and don't want to show respect to those who have genuine good qualities. You ever had that? Yeah? There's somebody with good qualities and we know it, and we just don't want to acknowledge their good qualities and respect them or honor them or see their good qualities in any way, because somehow we'll feel less than if we do, we feel vulnerable, whatever it is, we can't bring ourselves to respect those who are worthy of respect. So this creates a big problem in our Dharma practice, because as you know, we bow a lot. Yeah, so we not only bow to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, but within the monastic community, we bow to our seniors, the traditional way Buddhism was practiced in Asia. The lay people bow to the monastics. And so if we have this kind of haughtiness, we don't want to bow to anybody except ourselves. Yeah, so again, it's this whole thing of we want to be at the top of the mountain, but it's really pretty bare up there and none of the grass grows there. So that's haughtiness. Then there's another one that's called arrogance, which is conceit or an inflated sense of self based on our possessions, good health, wealth, youth, social standing, learning, and so forth. So it is a source of heedlessness or carelessness. Okay, so we are, inflated sense of self. And here we have a reason. Yeah, the other ones maybe is just, it's too much. We don't want to show respect to anybody. This one, we have a reason why we're better. Okay, I'm younger. I'm in better health. I have more money. I have more education. I have a better job. I'm more athletic. I'm more artistic. I'm more musical. I'm more literary. I'm, I can sit in meditation position better. I have higher social standing. I've learned more than other people. I have a job with more kinds of status. I'm part of the in crowd. Yeah, whatever it is, something like this. We have some reason why we are better than the other people. Yeah, so that is arrogance. So that's number 13 of the 57. Now, number 15 of the 57 is the 7 types of pride. And I usually don't use the word pride, I use the word arrogance, because pride can also be used in a positive way. You know, you're proud of what somebody accomplished, meaning you just rejoice and you feel good about it. But this, so that's why I usually don't use the word pride. But here, the other kind of meaning of pride is meant, and there's 7 kinds of these. So this only counts as one of the 57, but there's 7 branches of it. Okay. So the first branch itself has 3 sub-branches. Okay? So the 3 sub-branches. The first is thinking that we are inferior to the inferior. So this is thinking, I am the worst of the worst. Yeah. I am the biggest failure. I did the worst things that I hope nobody else knows about. I completely blew it like nobody else has ever blown it before. Okay, that one. Okay, so I'm the worst of the worst. This is actually an exaggerated sense of self and a perverse pride because we think we are somehow special because we are the worst. Yeah, so we're competing with everybody else to be the worst. And when we win the competition and we are the worst, then we use that to justify our self-pity, our discouragement, and not even making an effort to do anything because we are already the worst, so there's no hope for us. Okay? So it's a perverse pride. We're proud of how degenerate and depraved we are. Okay? But we laugh. But you know, you meet people and they're so proud of, how many people they slept with who were married, how many relationships they broke up. They're so proud of how many drugs they took, the whole variety of drugs they took, or how much alcohol they can imbibe, or, yeah, people get proud of all their negativities. Yeah, I can imagine, I know in prison, people may get proud of, how many people they beat up, or even how many people they killed, or how uncomfortable, how much they tormented the guards. Of course, the guards get proud because of how much they torment the inmates. Okay? But this is, it's a bad kind of pride. We're proud of all our negativities. And, okay. Then the second part, the second subdivision of the first of the 7 subdivisions of pride, okay, is it concerns thinking that we are equal to the equal. So this pride enjoys competing with others, and we are equal to them. We're competing, and maybe we didn't think we could be as good as them, but we are equal to them. Isn't that nice? We're taking a test, and I scored just the same thing you did. Okay, the third of the subdivisions thinks we are greater than or equal to the inferior. The previous one, we are equal to the equal. Here, we're equal to the inferior. So, of course. So like the others, this form of pride is based on comparing ourselves to others. But the conclusion is that we are better than or equal to those we consider degenerate, lowly, or inferior people. So how could we be otherwise? They are so lowly. They are so degenerate. They are so inferior. Of course, when we compare ourselves to them, we are better. Yeah. Or at least equal. But we're certainly not worse. Okay? So you can see all these different ways that we can pair ourselves with others. And it all comes down to making a big deal out of ourselves. Okay, then the second of the 7 types of pride is presumptive pride. And that refers to thinking we are equal to someone who is in fact better than us. For example, someone has a good trait and we think we're just as good as she is, when in fact we aren't. Okay, so there's somebody who excels in some kind of skill. It could be at work, it could be in sports, or in art and music and writing and hiking and rock climbing and, whatever it is, yeah. And they're superior, they have some good trait, and we are just as good as them. Yeah. So it might be somebody who already has some acclaim. Maybe they won an award or they got the promotion or whatever it is. And I'm just as good as them. Yeah. Of course, if we say it in a different way, meaning that they shouldn't have got it and we should have, then that becomes jealousy. Yeah. So it's they got the promotion and I'm just as good as them. Meaning they shouldn't have gotten the promotion, I should have. That's jealousy. But this one is there's somebody who has a good trait, and maybe we didn't even expect to get any recognition. But, I'm just as good as that person who got all that recognition. Okay? Then the third kind of pride is pride beyond pridefulness. And that is being particularly pompous, thinking we are more excellent than the people who are superior to us. So here we're not comparing ourselves to the lowly or to the equal, or thinking we're just as good as the people who are better than us. But now we are better than the people who are in fact better than us. Okay? So it may be in any kind of situation. Maybe you're learning something. Yeah, you're learning how to bowl. Yeah, or grow bonsai trees, or what else is another hobby people have? What? Photography. Yeah, or playing mahjong. Okay, so yeah, thinking I am more excellent than the best than this other person who's a really good photographer. Or I'm better than the person who taught me to play mahjong or the person who taught me to play golf. They were very kind, they taught me to play golf, but now I'm better than them. Really smug, really arrogant. Okay, so this pride is over the top. And for that reason, it's compared to developing sores on top of boils. Having a boil is bad enough, but to have sores on top of a boil means we think we're the best of the best. Nothing good is going to come from this, for it leads to rebirth in an unfortunate realm. But even when someone with pride beyond pridefulness is born as a human being, that person is ugly, stupid, and humiliated by others. Okay? So, pride, we need to think of the long-term disadvantage, how it causes a lower rebirth. Yeah. So we may be a member of a group of people that thinks it's superior to another group. Yeah, like Americans. Yeah? Yeah? Don't we think that our country's superior to every other country? Yeah. Yeah, if you're a Republican, of course. Yeah. America first and only. We're the best than anybody else. Yeah. And even if there's a temporary glitch right now, it'll all go away. And yeah, it's like you're just our 51st state. Yeah. Be glad you're not the 52nd. That's Mexico. Yeah. 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 So whole groups of people can be arrogant about another group. I think the Sunnis and the Shiites have it. The Christians and the Muslims have it. Yeah, the Palestinians and the Israelis have it. Every group feels they're better than the other one. Okay? And it really is over the top. And that is called patriotism. That's considered something good. Okay? Then the fourth of the seven is, so back to that one. Anyway, you can see when we are pompous, it's going to create the cause to be lowly in the next life. So if we're pompous as an individual, we be born lowly. If we're pompous together with a group of people, we may be born as another group of people who are then lowly. So it's very interesting when you think about this, because people who, dare I bring this up, people who, let's say, were white slave owners and very pompous about it, could be born, afterwards as blacks who experienced discrimination as a result of their arrogance. Okay? So this is the kind of thing that pride believes. We can't keep it up forever. Yeah, it just doesn't work. Okay, now the fourth one. The fourth one is the conceit thinking I am that I talked about yesterday. So that's based on grasping the I as truly existent. It misapprehends the five aggregates, believing they truly exist, and then grasps a truly existent person in dependence on them. Based on this misapprehension of the aggregates that are the basis of designation of the person, this conceit proudly thinks, I am. So we misapprehend the aggregates and think that they are truly existent. In dependence on them, we impute self or I, and then thinking that I is truly existent, we have the conceit of just I am. Yeah. In fact, both the aggregates and the person are empty of true existence. So what's there to get puffed up about? Yeah? If we're just appearances to the mind, what in the world are we so puffed up about? Then the fifth kind of pride is conceited pride. And that leads us to believe we have attained a result on the path that we haven't. Okay, for example, we think I've realized emptiness when we've just had an unusual experience in meditation. Or we think I am a bodhisattva because one day our meditation on compassion went better than usual. Yeah. But this book, what is it, After the Ecstasy, the Laundry? Yeah, you can see that some people, had some far out experience and then thought, I'm really getting somewhere. And then when they were the same as before, when that experience faded, then, they just were so discouraged. Yeah. But if we don't get puffed up about experiences to start with, then we don't get discouraged. And they always say when you have an unusual experience in your meditation, it's it's good to check it with your teacher to make sure it's a genuine experience and not just our mind that's proliferating with conceptualization. Because our mind can make up all sorts of things. Yeah, if you've taken drugs, you know this, you can experience all sorts of things and nothing's real. Yeah, but then we get a little bit conceited about it. Yeah, I had this far out experience in my meditation. I must be getting somewhere. I think I saw Tara. She waved to me. Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to have a direct visual, thing of her. And I just felt her so close. And there was bliss up and down my body, thinking of Tara. Actually, it's sexual energy, but we think it's, the bliss of the wisdom of bliss and emptiness. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so that kind of arrogance. Yeah, another friend told me that he went to visit one of his teachers who was one of the meditators in Dharamsala, and that the meditator said something about, he was meditating on Tara and that he had a vision of Tara. And the disciple got all excited. Oh, you had a vision of Tara? That's so far out. This is wonderful. You must be. And the meditator just said, well, I don't know if it was a real vision or if it was a fake vision, but I'm just going to keep practicing and we'll see what happens. So he didn't get all arrogant about it, going around town saying, I had a vision of Tara. I had a vision of Tara. Yeah, put your donations here. I'm a holy object now. Okay, so this is why, so that we don't think we've realized something that we haven't realized. This is why study is really important. Because if we learn the paths and grounds, if we learn the demarcation of having a realization, then when we have experiences, we'll be able to check. And does what I experience match what's described in the text? Yeah. His Holiness gives an example of one American who came to him and said, I dreamt of 1,000 Buddhas. And that's one of the, seeing 1,000 Buddhas is one of the qualities of a first ground bodhisattva, which means you've attained the path of seeing, you've perceived emptiness directly. So he said to His Holiness, I think I must be a first ground bodhisattva because I dreamt of 1,000 Buddhas. And His Holiness said, and he wanted His Holiness to kind of confirm it. And so then he could be somebody. And His Holiness said, there's a lot of other questions, a lot of other qualities of a first ground bodhisattva besides dreaming of 1,000 Buddhas. That person is able to give their body as easily as they can give away a carrot. Yeah, they perceived emptiness directly. They have spontaneous bodhicitta. Do you have those other qualities? Okay. Yeah. Oh, there was Khyentse Sopa Rinpoche did a great one once on somebody. Somebody was going around and saying he realized emptiness and was a great teacher and da 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 da. And Rinpoche wrote him a letter and said, Gelangma Palmo, she's the nun, the Indian nun who was the head of the Nune lineage of Thousand Armed Chenrezig. And so Rinpoche said, because Gelangma Palmo had leprosy, So a lot of people looked down on her. She eventually cured her leprosy through doing the Nune practice. But, people kind of just saw her as a pariah for a while. And so what she did to kind of show them that she did have realizations is she cut off her head and held it and then reattached it. And that way people came to see that she had actual realizations. So Rinpoche wrote to this person and said, can you show us your abilities like this, like Gelugpa Palmo?
I received a question from one of the SAFE participants.
Uh-huh.
And she was interested in knowing what is a realization? What do we mean when we say, having a realization of something? And also, how would she know if she's had a realization of something?
Yeah. Okay. If you have an experience that becomes steady and replicable, you can replicate it. Yeah. At many times, without losing it. And also in the Lamrim, they talk about what a realization of a topic is. Like with Precious Human Life, you feel like an abject beggar who suddenly found a jewel. Yeah. And you have that experience again and again and again and again. Okay. Or with death, you have an awareness that I might die at any time, and the only thing that's important is my Dharma practice. Yeah. So you look at each of the Lamrim meditations, and it's very important when we're doing this to see what is the conclusion we're trying to reach in the meditation. Yeah, we should always try and understand what that conclusion is correctly. And then if we have that experience and and it's sustainable over time. Yeah. So I think, our mind kind of wants to be able to say, I had a realization, kind of like, okay, I passed first grade. And, or I graduated from high school or whatever it is. I got my diploma. I have a realization. But His Holiness always emphasizes, this path is going to take a long time. And be happy creating the causes. Be happy going in the right direction. Don't think that you have to proclaim every time you've reached some point, because until we become Buddha, there's still more to go. Yeah? And so, of course, we rejoice in our virtue. We rejoice in our understanding. But rejoicing is different than getting arrogant about it. Okay? We should rejoice in our merit and our understanding. Yeah? It's important to rejoice, but getting arrogant is a totally different ballgame. Okay, so think about what the difference between those is. Okay, then the sixth one is, wait a minute. I have this. Conceited pride. Yeah. And then the sixth one is erroneous pride. And it refers to boasting about our misdeeds. Okay, so here we have that again. For example, we succeed in taking revenge on somebody who harmed us in the past, and we feel especially proud of ourselves for accomplishing that. Yeah. Kind of, Assad did a chemical weapon thing on his own people. And we sent in our bombers and destroyed what did we destroy? Some kind of air base or something. Yeah, isn't that good? We only killed a few people. I wish we had killed more. This kind of mind that just rejoices in taking revenge. Hmm? And it's kind of hard to admit that we feel this. Yeah. Sometimes we want to brag about it. If we have certain friends, like, you know how much that person harmed me. Well, I really got him. And we brag about it. Other times we just feel really proud ourselves, but or we may brag about it to somebody, but it's really hard to admit to ourselves what a nasty state of mind that is. Rejoicing that we caused other people suffering. Not a nice state of mind. But sometimes we have it. No, somebody harmed us and we get even. Give them a taste of their own medicine, beat them down. Okay, so that's erroneous pride. We relish our defiance and are proud of our harmful actions. Relish our defiance. Anybody have that? Yeah? Okay. We have a lot of authority issues. You think? Anybody here have authority issues? Yeah. We have authority issues. So, when we can be defiant to an authority, it feels so good. Here's that person. They think they can boss me around. They think there's something important. Well, I'm just not going to do what they say. That's what's really going on inside is our childlike behavior. But outside, it's much more sophisticated. Yeah. We're so proud of taking our revenge. Oh, what the president tweeted today? I got it. You don't want to know what the president tweeted today? Just when you think things can't get any worse. And he tweeted this, not on his personal email, but a personal tweet, but on the POTUS tweet. He put it on there. President of the United States. So that's his full official tweeting account. Okay. So what he tweeted was, it seems like some years ago, they have this wrestling kind of thing where people, I don't know, some kind of wrestling thing. So from some years ago. So he got up and rushed somebody. They do this as like a prank or whatever. Or I don't know what a prank, but anyway, this wrestling thing. So he rushed somebody and he pummeled the guy, and then, stood up and walked away. So he put that video from a few years ago, but with the guy that he was pummeling, instead of seeing his head, was the CNN logo. So, and that's what he put. I mean, he was so proud of, fixing up this video showing him beating up a journalist from CNN, but just by imposing the CNN logo on this old video. Yeah. That's a good example, isn't it? It's a very good example when we're proud of our I don't know what. Yeah. We relish our defiance. That's what it is. Yeah. So his continuing war with the press and being defiant to the press, being defiant to societal norms. This is erroneous pride. Yeah, the sixth one. Okay, so it's a good example. Yeah. So, Yeah, anyway, you're getting the latest news in the middle of retreat, but it's a good example, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, Dharma is supposed to apply to our life. So here's an example of it. Yeah. Justin Trudeau didn't do that. Are you guys lucky?
What is it that we're doing here when we're taking some type of joy or laughing at something that is, in a sense, tragic?
Yeah.
What is that emotion, or what is it in us that,
Yeah. What are
what
we
is really
doing?
going on?
Yeah. Laughing at tragedy, laughing at things that are so sad. And so I think what it is it's so awful that if you really let yourself feel the full impact of it, it would, you don't want to let yourself feel the full impact, or you feel the full impact, and it's and you have to laugh because it's so, why is that? I don't know. What do you have? Yeah.
Can't be comic relief, but it reminds me of the title of that book, I Know Why a Caged Bird Sings. Because we're all kind of trapped, in a way, by this situation. And there's a feeling of powerlessness of all the continual three-ring circus that we're exposed to, and the consequences of it are tragic. And then you still have to find a way to go on. So
Yeah.
it's like something in us for me, I think there's probably something more wholesome than this, but it's kind of still related to what's going on inside.
Yeah. It's some way. I think it's a way maybe to release the tension and the distress that we feel inside about this. Yeah.
Oh, if I feel safe in saying this, that I don't want no microphones, just we are being taped, but we're all expressing angst over the way that not only all governments or warring governments, are behaving. What was our reaction as a Buddhist when Saddam Hussein was finally captured and killed, or the other guy,
Osama bin Laden.
or
yeah.
and this is where I'm a little nervous, and I'm saying this with true respect, but what would happen if something happened, if you come out and said, oh, gee, the president's been hurt, or his life is in danger. So we're saying all these, bring up all these feelings about of angst about this person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now let's take it one step further, and I think I don't think I'd like to be in his position, but
No.
For fear of myself, my own life being taken. So what happens if something like that happens, and how are we supposed to show love and compassion when it's almost like we're saying, well, it's probably for the betterment of all.
I still think, as a Buddhist, if anybody gets murdered, it's sad. Yeah. It's, it's sad. We shouldn't solve problems through violence. Yeah. So, and we have to be very careful not to rejoice in other people's negativity. Relief or rejoice or something like that. There could be that kind of feeling, but I think what we need to focus on is the tragedy of a life being taken, and not let our mind go towards relief or rejoice. That would be very, very dangerous if we let our mind go in that direction. Yeah, because that would be like justifying, or it's rejoicing in killing, which itself is a negative action. So it's something, we have to be very careful of when we read the news, because different people are getting killed all the time. And we can read about something with a certain number of ISIS soldiers getting killed, and something inside of us goes, good, and we need to stop that mind and say, no, those people are not our enemies. Yeah, they're suffering sentient beings who, due to their karma, wound up in this situation, but they are not inherently bad or inherently evil. And so the same thing with any kind of political leader or whoever, whether it's Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden or somebody from our own country, rejoicing at an assassination is not where we want to let our minds go. Yeah, because there's better ways to solve problems.
Is there any arrogance in us laughing and knowing that what a stupid act it was for President Trump to tweet that we would know better than to do that? Is there any arrogance in that?
There might be, kind of, I'm better than he is. I wouldn't put a video like that on my Twitter account. Yeah, could be some arrogance in that. But I think, it's going to depend on the person. For me, I know it was more just disbelief. That was my first reaction, was disbelief. Like, what?
And then from there, it's worry, because this kind of experience is nothing I have ever experienced in my 66 years. I don't know where to put this.
Yeah.
So there's worry.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have a frame of reference for this.
Yeah. 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 Very true.
So, as a father, and you asked me this when we were having dinner once, I have a very hard time trying to provide perspective to my children in these situations. Because on the one hand, there's a tremendous amount of ridicule that they encounter in the public that I would frame as arrogance from their cohorts, from their kid friends that are in 6th and 7th grade. And on the other hand, I have a sense of empathy for the president in watching almost, I don't want to call him a fool, but sometimes I feel like it's almost like watching a fool and someone who they know not what they do.
Yeah.
I have a hard time, I don't want to just criticize the president or show a lot of contempt or anger, because I think that's something that I don't want to emulate or role model, but I also have a hard time calling it what I really think it is. And so I'm asking you, do you have any perspective on how I might act as a father or act as a parent figure or a teacher, a guide to my own children who have a limited capability of absorbing a lesson? I don't really know how to do that skillfully.
Yeah. I think here it's good to talk with your kids about separating the person from the action. Yeah, the person and the action are different. So that action is foolish, stupid, whatever you want to say, inappropriate, that's a better word. So that action is just completely inappropriate. Yeah. And it's not something we want to emulate and act that way towards the people we do. I'm not talking properly. We don't want to act that way towards other people that we know or don't know. We don't want to ridicule them or slam them or act like that. So the action is something that we can speak about as inappropriate and, unwise, and don't go near that. That's going to have a lot of bad effects. But the person who did the action is not evil. Yeah, the person who did the action is confused. And I think that's, the way I always come back to looking at Trump is, here's somebody who's incredibly confused with a lot of suffering, can't endure any criticism, even more sensitive than me. Yeah? And you know how, are you sensitive to criticism? But, we're all like super sensitive. But he's even more sensitive. So that kind of pain that he has and kind of confusion and the negative karma that he has, when you really think about that, yeah, then you have to have compassion for that person. Although you say that that action is something harmful. Okay? So I think that's a good way to say it to kids. Separate the two things.
Another perspective is that as residents of this country, as citizens, voters, citizens of the world, I think we have the right to expect our leaders to behave in a certain way, to know that their actions have an impact, to know that they're charged with leadership, and that's a great responsibility. And that if they themselves are not supposed to wear the mantle of leadership, then why did they put themselves in a leadership position? I think we have the right to ask for accountability, to ask for our representatives to represent us well and with the due seriousness of the position, and to be able to relate to the world in a respectful manner that conveys the amount of power and responsibility that that position carries.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. So, compassion for him does not mean we're saying what he's doing is okay. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right that people need to be accountable for their actions, and we should hold them accountable. It goes back to what you said, though. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do to hold them accountable. As just individual citizens, what do we do? Yeah, the most we can do is write letters and then wait for the next time an election comes around. And speak with other people and, act in the way that we think is appropriate. I think it's also very good for us whenever we see people acting in ways that we consider inappropriate, to use that as an example for how we don't want to be. So instead of just pointing the finger at them and saying, calling them names and so on, to say, when have I acted in a way that's similar to that? Or when could I act in a way that's similar to that? Yeah. And, if I can look and say his behavior is not proper, then I have to really look inside myself and make sure I restrain myself from acting in that way in any kind of circumstance. That's the one thing definitely we can do.
There's a talk of His Holiness having a meeting with the president. What do you think he would do or say?
I think His Holiness would go up and pat him on the head. And then start giggling. His Holiness would do that and then just giggle and smile. Yeah. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, then the seventh kind of pride is the pride of inferiority. And this makes us feel overwhelmed and leads us to think, I'm unable to cope with this. Boy, this kind of follows the discussion we just had. Because maybe why we laugh is because otherwise we would just say, I can't cope with this. Yeah, like you said, I have no frame of reference, no way of understanding this. Yeah. So it also arouses depression, which thinks we are useless and no one cares about us. Holding such a wrong view of ourselves makes us demoralized, causes self-pity, and discourages us from engaging in virtue. Okay, that's the 7 kinds of pride. Okay, the very first one of the 7. Okay, so the first one of the 7 is thinking we are inferior to the inferior. So that one's comparing ourselves to somebody else and thinking that we are the worst of the worst. And this is just saying, I'm overwhelmed and I can't cope. So then you might say, well, how is this a type of arrogance? Feeling I'm overwhelmed and I can't cope. In some ways it is. There's a relationship between the different kinds, that third kinds of laziness and pride. Okay, then there's another one, which is the 42nd of the 57. And this one is called conceptuality in connection with recognition. So it doesn't have the title arrogance or pride in it. But it involves telling others about our excellent qualities or acting in a way such that they will recognize us as a special person with the motivation that they will take us as their guru, give us offerings, and benefit us in other ways as well. While similar to craving approval, the craving to approval that's mentioned in a previous verse, this one is more specific because here we seek perks from their viewing us as spiritual mentors. Okay, so this one's a kind of attachment, but it sure sounds like it's linked to arrogance to me. Yeah, because we're bragging about our excellent qualities. We're putting on a front, so in that way it's like pretension. Yeah, but it's in the hopes that we will get some perks out of it by other people taking us as their spiritual mentor and then giving us offerings and serving us and that kind of thing. So that one is not strictly arrogance, it's mixed in with attachment and pretension, but I think there's a kind of arrogance in it too, it seems to me. Okay, are we ready to go on? Are we done with arrogance finally? Yeah? Give us a break. The lion of arrogance, Maybe we really need to think about it this much so that we get fully disgusted with it. Yeah? Completely disgusted with the arrogant mind. I don't want any part of that. Yeah. But you brought up a good point, I'm a little bit better because I wouldn't act like that. Okay, then the second one is the elephant of ignorance. Untamed by the sharp hooks of mindfulness and introspective awareness, dulled by the maddening liquor of sensual pleasures, it enters wrong paths and shows its harmful tusks. The elephant of ignorance, please protect us from this danger. Okay? So there's different kinds of ignorance, yeah? And there's different ways to speak of the different kinds of ignorance, yeah? But one way is the ignorance regarding the ultimate truth and the ignorance regarding the function of karma and its effects. So the ignorance that regards the ultimate nature is the grasping at true existence, and this is the root of samsara. So it's the root of all the other afflictions. Out of it comes the ignorance of, or confusion, sometimes we translate it as confusion, regarding the functioning of karma and its effects. And so here we have an inability to discern what is virtue and what is non-virtue. Yeah, and in fact, we think that non-virtue is virtue and virtue is non-virtue. And this is, we don't ostensibly have a mind that wants to hurt with this confusion. But what it does is it feeds all of our other negative actions. Okay, it justifies our anger and our resentment and everything else that we do, because we don't know how to differentiate what to practice and what to abandon. So I think that this is the form of ignorance that is being talked about here, but it's certainly influenced by the ignorance of the ultimate truth, the ultimate nature. So untamed by the sharp hooks of mindfulness and introspective awareness. So mindfulness is a mental factor that holds in its mind, it remembers. Mindfulness is related to memory. It remembers our precepts, it remembers our values, our principles, how we want to be. Okay, so mindfulness is in daily life is really essential for ethical conduct because it holds in our mind how we want to act. In terms of concentration, mindfulness is what firmly holds the object of meditation in such a way that we can't get distracted. Then mindfulness and introspective awareness, they're often spoken of together. So mindfulness holds what we're trying to remember in our daily life. Introspective awareness is a mind that monitors, what is going on? What am I saying and doing and thinking and feeling? Am I acting in accord with my precepts and my values and how I want to be as a human being? Or have I spaced out? Or have I gone to something negative? In terms of our concentration, mindfulness holds the mind on the object of meditation. Introspective awareness is like a little spy that checks up, am I still on my object of meditation, or have I gotten distracted? Okay, so these two mental factors go together. So when our mind is untamed by mindfulness and introspective awareness, our ethical conduct is going to be very poor, and our concentration also will be very poor. Okay, dulled by the maddening liquor of sensual pleasures. So sensual pleasures are here compared to booze. And what happens when you drink? You get drunk, you get out of control. So the mind that is obsessed with sense pleasures becomes completely out of control. It gets overwhelmed with attachment, with craving, with clinging. Okay? And so here, sense pleasures doesn't just mean being attached to popcorn. Okay? It can mean, because sometimes we trivialize sense pleasure. And it's just when I'm attached to popcorn and I want to eat popcorn all the time. No, it's not that. It's any of the 8 worldly concerns that are fueled by by contact of objects with our sense consciousnesses. Okay, so we become completely berserky, like addicts, due to our attachment to money, to possessions, to being somebody, to having a relationship, to being famous or recognized or popular or appreciated or loved. Yeah, to having seeing nice things, hearing beautiful music, smelling nice sounds, tasting good food, nice physical things. Yeah, right temperature, good sex, all of that. Okay? And so being it's an elephant, like a mad elephant. A mad elephant is just bonkers. They're totally uncontrolled. Totally. And, when we get overwhelmed by attachment, that's the way we are. Totally uncontrolled. Yeah? And we'll do almost anything to get the object that we're attached to, or to hold on to the object that we're attached to. Okay? And so we create a ton of negative karma because we don't have, or we have the confusion that can't distinguish virtue from non-virtue. Okay? So, untamed by the sharp hooks of mindfulness and introspective awareness, dulled by the maddening liquor of sensual pleasure. So we can't think straight. Yeah, we're dulled by the liquor of sense pleasure. We can't think straight. We can't think, is this something to practice or abandon? Yeah. And I know from working with the inmates that I work with, this is exactly what happened at the time they created, their crime, is they couldn't distinguish. No. What virtue and non-virtue. The mind was just checked out. Yeah? And so they did harmful things that not only harmed others, but completely ruined their own lives as well. Or at least, I can't say ruined their entire lives, because many of these guys are really good practitioners now, but they certainly put their lives in a different trajectory. Okay, so it enters the wrong paths. Yeah, so it enters the wrong paths, On an ethical sense, we go down the wrong path. If we're talking here about the ignorance that grasps true existence, this takes us down another wrong path with all sorts of incorrect philosophies, that might assert a creator God or a God, a supreme being that manages the universe, that gives out punishments and rewards, a primal substance out of which, or a cosmic substance out of which everything is created. There's all different kinds of philosophies. So the ignorance of the ultimate can give rise to those kind of those wrong paths. It enters wrong paths and shows its harmful tusks. Yeah, you get caught on an elephant's tusks. It lifts you up. You are disconnected because your mind is completely like a mad elephant. The elephant of ignorance, please protect us from this danger. So how do we overcome this kind of ignorance? If it's the ignorance grasping at true existence, then we have to learn about. So hear, read, study about emptiness and the wisdom that realizes it. Then reflect on what we've studied so that we can reach a correct intellectual or a correct conceptual understanding, and then meditate on what we've discerned so that we can realize emptiness directly and really integrate it with our mind stream. In terms of the other ignorance, the ignorance of the karma and effects, how do we remedy that? Again, thinking, studying the scriptures, because the Buddha talks so much in all sorts of different ways about ethical conduct, what to practice, what to abandon. So not only, in an ethical way, what to practice and abandon, but when you're trying to cultivate bodhicitta, what do you practice, what do you abandon when you're trying to cultivate generosity, what to practice, what to abandon. Same for all the different good qualities that we're trying to develop. So he explained all of that. So we really need to study the scriptures and know these things and then think about them so that they make sense to us. Yeah? And if they make sense to us, then of course we want to abandon certain things and practice other things. And then from having heard and thought about it, then we go on to meditating and practicing it.